here we are. We're going to pivot to a nice, fun series that Rachel Chanoff is going to lead, and we're going to. People have submitted pivot stories, and it's going to be a share out just to hear how people have been living and imagining themselves in this reality. So a quick introduction to Rachel Chanoff, who has been working in the performing arts and film for 35 years and is the founder and director of the Office Performing Arts and Film. Rachel has served as curator and consultant artistic director for esteemed festivals and organizations, including Mass Mocha, the 60-Second Center Theater and Dance at Williams College, the Sundance Institute, the Raw Screenwriters Lab in Jordan, the New York Jewish Film Festival, the Margaret Mead Film Festival, Fresh Grass Foundation, and BRIC Celebrate Brooklyn Festival. She is certainly well-versed in this industry, and it's be a pleasure to have her leading these pivot stories for all of us this afternoon. Welcome, Rachel, and thank you.
Thank you, Viviana. Thrilled and delighted that everybody is joining us here, because I know we've all been doing a lot of pivoting. And I've just been thinking that in, the gift kind of this crisis and the creative challenge is it made us think a lot about what are we doing, and are we kind of on our own on mission and doing things that we think are important. So it felt to us in the office anyway, like it was a great moment. It was a scary but great moment of reflection and confirmation that we were on the right path and just needed to change the form. So quick pivot story from the office is in these moments where you can't bring art, people to the art, you're thinking, how do you bring art to the people? And we worked with the photographer, Carrie Mae Weems, to launch a COVID awareness campaign for communities of color that we did via billboards and wheat paste and lawn signs and church fans and reusable bags, and we rolled it out in 18 cities. And we partnered with museums and food banks and community centers and drive-ins, and really we're thinking about the moment where how do you really leverage art for social impact? And I know a lot of us have been doing that kind of thinking. So I'm thrilled to introduce a series of our peers who are going to tell you pivot stories from their organizations. Catherine has told me that we all have only 3 minutes apiece. So I'm going to loom large in your screen if you start to go over time. And at the end, Isabel is going to come back and make a very interesting announcement about the Global Fest Assist Fund. So here with our first pivot story is Brahim Elmazned.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I hope you are well and safe. Well, in the period of crisis, one has the choice between passivity and action. So we choose the resilience. So, well, as far as we are concerned, this edition of Visa for Music, because our structure organized Visa for Music. So this edition has been maintained in a concern of resilience due to this crazy situation. The promotion of music will always remain a priority for us, which is why this edition was held in its entirety in digital form and in a strict compliance with the sanitary measures. So for this edition, it was an opportunity to record and to produce 17 bands and artists based in Morocco in their diversity, both musically and So I invite you to find this performance, their performance on the Visa for Music YouTube channel, and of course in our social network, Facebook and Instagram. The conferences were also for these artists. We produce everything, so we bring them to a studio in Casablanca. We had a hotel for free, so because the hotels are, of course, empty, and we had a partner who gave us the hotel for free for all these bands, around 100 people. So it was a amazing deal with the hotel. So it was excellent for us. So we organized also some conferences. The conferences were also broadcast online in French and English on the theme of cultural industry in the time of this crisis. Other themes also, like the place of women in the sector in our region. So the speakers with varied profile are from many countries in Africa and elsewhere. And those conferences are also available online. You can also take a look on online. The event took up the challenge and provide that it was possible to bring the domain to life, musical, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, without any risk to artists, performers, and the team, and of course on technical production. So just a number of this edition, 17 concert was produced, 100 artists, 10 region from Morocco represented, one big forum, 4 conferences, 4 topic, 8 conferences, 40 speakers from the whole Africa and Middle East, and 1.5 million spectators on our YouTube channel, and 0 cases of COVID. This year was also an opportunity to produce an anthology regarding Amazigh music from the south of Morocco. So in our structure, Anya, we have different activities in the music sector. Of course, it was very, very hard to work with this pandemic. So, but this project was, we were a little bit late to produce it. So this period was an opportunity for us to finish this work. This anthology is dedicated to Berber music from the south, rice tradition, with 2 books, 10 CDs, 100 tracks. So it was very, very well. The return from the media, we had a very, very big. It was the positive from. We had a very big return from media and from professional.
Hi, good evening. I'd like a number 14 combination big fish with.
Sorry. So, thank you again. Thank you for inviting me again. And we have a few, just to finish, we have other projects are in progress for this 2021. We hope to finish them, and of course we hope to be back to our normal life before COVID, because we are coming, most of us are coming from live performance than digital. We hope we'll be back soon to our normal life, and sure, I miss you, all of you. I hope we can meet soon again after this crisis.
Thank you so much for that story. It sounds like you had so many viewers. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Next from the Kennedy Center, we have Diana Ezerins, our friend Diana Ezerins.
Hi. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so my name is Diana Ezerins. I'm the Director of Public Programs at the Kennedy Center, which is located on the traditional land and waterway of the Anacostia. I'm a 39-year-old white female, black shirt, swirly earrings. Anyway, my primary responsibility is to oversee Millennium Stage, which is our daily free performance series, as well as supporting curation of many of our festivals over the past 17 years. Without genre or ticket prices and available on campus and online, Millennium Stage has been critical for expanding upon what is honored and recognized by the Kennedy Center as high quality art in our society. This programming area is heavily focused on establishing partnerships with community leaders and organizations to serve as curators, sometimes for one show, sometimes for a weekend, sometimes for a festival. Then of course the pandemic hit. Millennium Stage has been available every day online since 1999. That's before YouTube, just throwing that out there. So it was obvious for us to pivot to an online performance series from wherever the artists are. Of our artistic director for jazz, Jason Moran, and the artists that he selected to be a part of our first Kennedy Center couch concerts. We were focusing on, where everybody's scrambling. We decided on a short 12-week run. We didn't know how long we were going to be home by ourselves. 3 times a week, on Mondays, a national spotlight. On Wednesdays, a DC spotlight. It's super critical to our work that we focus on DC area artists. And Fridays were dedicated to Kennedy Center artistic partners. Again, it was 3 shows a week. We had $1,000 per show that was divided between the artists. Skipping over this stuff. Okay, so the biggest win with this transition to digital was including this national spotlight. We focused on regions where the pandemic began, and in collaboration with many of you, the brilliant programmers across the country, we invited you to select artists from your community who are leaders in terms of using their art as a tool for social change and or exemplify unique artistic styles. Again, an image of America with all of the artists that you helped us curate in a beautiful image. It took some convincing of our internal team, but the national spotlights became very well received. It got the attention of Facebook, who gave us $200,000 to host a national spotlight every weekday, starting July 27th through December 11th. This became Arts Across America, which is a program that has evolved at the Kennedy Center over the years as we continue to explore how to best honor and celebrate the great art in this country. We traveled to nearly every state and territory, though we missed 3 out of 56. This wave of shows became a bit of an artistic manifesto leading up to the election. As a lifetime East Coaster, to be able to see beyond red and blue states to the people and communities around the country through this artistic lens was incredibly uplifting during a year of great strife, and this rang true for our audience night after night. Then I had an image of some statistics which were taken in the middle of November, not even at the end, but at that point this point in November, it was 133 performances, 59 cities, 42 states, 4 territories, 2.5 million viewers.
Wow.
Okay. Then I have 2 slides with all of the partners, many of whom are here present, to showcase, it was just awesome to be able to work with all of you. And it couldn't have happened without you. And I listed them all in order of appearance, but I really want to call out some of the people who were on board with this project from the very beginning, which is Mateo, Aaron, Josh, I'm not even going to say everybody's names, but Claudia, McLeod, and Michael Orlov, with whom this project would not have happened because I needed him to help guide our leadership into partnering across the country and curating in this way. But that's it. You guys are awesome.
Diane, it's amazing that you had that much reach and that you convened so many of the curators that are here today. And that you got so much viewership. So thank you for that. Next from Global Toronto and Small World Music, Umair Jaffar is going to tell us about their pivot.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Hello, everyone. So good to see familiar faces. Thank you, Isabel and Catherine, for inviting us. So I am coming to you from my home here in Toronto, which is the Indigenous territory of Huron-Wendat, Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people. And traditionally, Toronto, or Takaronto, as the indigenous name is, has been known as a meeting place. And in spirit of that, as a meeting place, we put together a conference around the same time the realities of the pandemic were hitting all of us. So we still naively thought that we will just delay a couple of months and be able to do our conference in August 2020. And what we realized is, like everything else we do at Small World, we cannot make a decision without talking to the ecosystem of our supporters, of the people, the community we work with. So we reached out to a lot of people who, out of whom a lot are in these little boxes I see on my screen. So collectively, we realized that we actually do need a conference and we have to just figure out how to deliver it. So we announced Global Toronto to happen despite not knowing what we will do. So in July 2020, the conference took place virtually. It was one of the first virtual conferences on a lot of people's radar. So it was a good time because the realities were sinking in for most of us. And what we did with that time, we realized that we should pause and step back and look at the music ecosystem that we live in, and especially look at through the lens of equity, sustainability, and accessibility. And it's obvious that there's a lot of work to do. So that's what the conference is focused on. We had conversations and very real, very raw in sometimes conversations around systemic issues with the music industry. So while everyone was keen to go back to normal, really what we wanted to talk at Global Toronto was that, was it ever normal even before the pandemic? And it was normal for who? Who were the people who were never in these screens or on the conversation tables that most of us attend? And that's sort of labeled as you know, sort of an activist conference. We kind of own that label and are trying to stay true to be more inclusive and accessible and push the envelope forward around those philosophical, but yet also very practical issues that the music's world faces, especially the world that we live in. So in spirit of that, we are coming back with a second edition of Global Toronto, probably the second few conferences, which will be doing 2 virtual COVID editions. So our next edition is scheduled to be in June 14th to 18th. I have, we'll drop a link here. Please sign up either to the newsletter or the conference. And we will remain a virtual and in real life conference going forward, just because we've realized that accessibility is extremely important, and being online really helps a lot of people who have not been able to be included. By those participants who were at Global Toronto 20, we of course thank them all, but we were extremely excited because we had a lot of folks that we've not seen at similar conferences. So in terms of outreach, the conference itself, Global Toronto, had more than 800 delegates representing people from around 75 countries from the world. Almost 50% of those countries were first-time contact with a Canadian event or a North American event. So it was very exciting for us to have those voices be present. And that's really it.
Yeah.
That is our pivot. So thank you.
That's quite the pivot. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Next is from the Cleveland Museum of Art and also Museum Presenters Organization, Tom Welsh.
Hey everybody, I'm glad to be here. Tom Welsh, the Director of Performing Arts, Music and Film at the Cleveland Museum of Art, here on the traditional lands of the Hopewell people, among many others. I did not bring a PowerPoint presentation, so Diana, if you figured out your technology, you want to put yours up now, that's perfectly fine with me. The Cleveland Museum of Art's concert series is the longest running concert series in any American or North American museum, year-round concert programming going back over 100 years at this point. We, as many of you probably know, we're doing a huge variety of work from old and new, and from all the corners of the world, which is what an encyclopedic art museum should do. And in our region of the world, it's particularly a window to the larger world and the contemporary dialogues of what's happening in the world of visual arts and performing arts. So in this sense, I'm a particular kind of presenter, not a university-based presenter, not a PhD, but a concert curator living inside of a visual arts museum, which means it's a unique situation. So when all this happened to us back starting in March, one of the things that had been on my mind for the longest time was there must be other people sitting in the same kind of circumstance that I'm in, that is to say, presenters in museums with a major commitment to music and performance. Of course, we know that the answer is yes, but this group of people had never really come together in a meaningful way. So our pivot was to convene finally and assemble this constellation of presenters who live inside of visual arts museums with a very snazzy name, museum presenters. Tentative until we can think of something better, but that's what it is. And this is a group that gets together now in Zoom. Cleveland, of course, the Met in New York, the Getty, National Gallery and the Smithsonian, Freer and Sackler in DC, the Warhol Museum. Even the Library of Congress has this extraordinary long-standing series devoted to performing arts. The Wexner and the Aga Khan in Toronto, and others are on their way. So what's happening is, as I say, a constellation has come together to present and introduce ourselves maybe more formally to this community as yet another channel. There are the university-based presenters, there are the commercial for-profit presenters, there are the PACs, and there are museums that have commitments to music and performance that present other opportunities for artists and people who work with artists. So what will come out of this? We'll see. It's a work in progress, of course, but it's a network that complements these other channels and that we hope to maybe contribute in a more organized way in terms of planning, production, commissioning work, which each of us has done in different degrees over time. I would mention, I heard in one of the earlier breakout sessions and some excellent points coming out of some of our colleagues in the agency world that what's going to happen probably is recalibration of how we all talk to each other and work together for the betterment of everybody involved in our landscapes and in our immediate region. The Cleveland Museum of Art is one among many kinds of presenting organizations. All have different goals and different missions, but all part of a sort of a big and noisy family. So I think I would second that thought, that if we're all communicating to each other, take a little more time maybe and have longer conversations about what works in different regions and different areas, it'll be for the benefit of all of us. Thanks, everybody.
Tom, thanks. A big and noisy family. I think that's so true. And now from BRIC, Celebrate Brooklyn, Leah Crockett is going to share a pivot.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. It's good to see everybody. All these pivoting. I just can't wait to not say pivot anymore, but here we are. So as you know, Celebrate Brooklyn, we've been going on for 42 years. And it was really, it was just like a big struggle of the mind personally to think, how can we not possibly be in person? So much of what we're about is like this physical gathering in the park. But I'm really proud of, excuse me, I'm really proud of the people I work with, because this was such a huge team effort to kind of figure out how do we still create that sense of togetherness and belonging, and how do we still serve all of the audiences we serve and not really think of it as like a, you know, this is just a crap year that we have to figure out, but like, how can it still actually be just as impactful, if not more impactful? So like many people did, you know, we came up with a virtual experience. And I thought I would just share a quick recap video to show what we did. Gabrielle, you want to hit play? Thank you. much. I feel like that's better than me talking. So, essentially that was our virtual experience. I think some quick highlights are that, we really wanted to capitalize on interactivity, because I think, again, that sort of interaction, engagement with the people viewing was really important. We didn't want to create a passive experience, and that really worked. We also, got to work with the artists in a really different way. Of course, thank you to the folks behind this experience at the office. They worked tirelessly and quickly to rebook everyone and, really galvanize people and get everyone on board. And what it showed and what it did for us, I think, looking to the future, is that it really created a proof of concept that we can actually reach a lot of our audience who maybe we didn't necessarily talk to on a direct digital level, but it turns out there are actually a lot of people who want to engage with us in that space. And there are people all over the world that we didn't necessarily have access to. So now that's really good information for us as we look to the future and plan for next year, which still has tons of uncertainties. But even for the next few years down the line, really focusing on digital not being this like ancillary add-on, but really making it an integrated part of everything we do. And, realizing that we can, that's actually a bonus, not necessarily like an added thing that we have to do. So yeah, I think it was like a really good, it forced us to like think really creatively and pushed us, I think, to think outside of the box. And I'm really happy to take some of those learnings for next year.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now from Creative Alliance, our friend Josh Kohn.
Hey everybody, this is Josh Kohn from Creative Alliance in Baltimore. We're located on the Piscataway lands. We are a mid-sized arts organization. We've really done a ton since the pandemic started. Way too much to squeeze into a 3-minute presentation. A lot has been written about our Sidewalk Serenade series, which put about 400 live concerts in and around Baltimore safely. I'm not going to get into that. There's lots of information about that elsewhere, but we're very proud of that program. I want to tell you about another pivot of ours. On Halloween of 2020, Baltimore was going to celebrate the 21st anniversary of an event called the Great Halloween Lantern Parade and Festival. This event, produced by Creative Alliance in our neighborhood park, that's a glowing procession of light and community. It really takes over the park with about 10,000 neighbors, thousands of handmade lanterns, floats, music. It's pretty awesome, but obviously, you know what happens next. We couldn't pull it off. We assumed that we just wouldn't be able to produce the event, but in August, we decided to revisit that idea and dreamed up a bit of a Frankenstein just in time for Halloween. We dug through our storage unit where we kept all of our old floats and finale parts, and we began retrofitting these floats to sit on the back of trucks and cars. And then normally a few days after the Lantern Parade, we partner with the Latinx neighbors in our area to produce a Dia de los Muertos festival. So we reached out to them and we combined efforts. We produced a really wild, loud, and wonderful Dia de los Muertos Halloween Lantern Car Parade that wound its way through the East Baltimore neighborhoods. Instead of asking our neighbors to come to us in the park, we went to them, and the result was nothing but pure magic. The energy was really infectious. On the major thoroughfares, the streets were lined with people. And on the side streets, people heard the banda music and the PAs we had blasting Halloween tunes and came out on their stoops. Since there was no trick-or-treating, we were the Halloween treat. The community responded with cheers and tears and an overwhelming amount of love. We wanted to figure a way to connect the parade with the underserved communities in and around the park for years. And thanks to the pandemic, we finally figured it out. And I don't think we're ever gonna look back. So I would have loved to show you the video because it's pretty awesome, but all good. We roll with it.
Another sharing opportunity. And from WOMEX, our next pivot story is from Christine Semba.
Hello, everybody. I'm from Berlin, Germany. Speaking from Berlin, Germany, originally French. So my name is Christine Semba and I represent WOMEX. Thank you to Wavelengths for taking place in the first place and for giving us a word. It's really nice to see many familiar faces here and friends, and I hope to see you soon in real life. Missing a lot these January warm meetings in cold New York. Like everybody, 2020 has been very challenging for us. WOMEX was supposed to take place end of October in Budapest, and it didn't. In May, we conducted a survey to understand better how our global community is facing the crisis. And we received over 800 answers, many alarming testimonies already in May. but also many encouragements, saying that if we can't do anything physical, we should do it. So even if we knew that a WOMEX with over 90 countries will not happen in this format, most probably, we have spent several months in hoping and building many plans, ABC and further, of physical activities and inclusive online offers. Beginning of September, the travel regulations to Hungary became harder and we took the decision to go completely digital. And with our local partners in Hungary, I'll still be able to organize public concerts and conferences in Budapest, which has been streamed onto the digital platform. So some of the lessons we have learned. First, the power and resilience of our community. This has been amazing to see how the Mexicans were eager to exchange network while needing it. It was a kind of family reuniting. So this was very cheering for us. And in any places, in dedicated chat we had, in conferences, in showcases, everywhere it was a changing a network and yeah, a very great and warm feeling. A digital edition also allowed new delegates who never made it to WOMEX to join. So that was at least an inclusive, positive outcome. It gave also stronger visibility to the conference, mentoring and film programs, which are sometimes less in the spotlight. For the showcases, unfortunately, nobody can pretend to replace a live concerts with a live audience. So we have tried to make them more special in filming interviews with every showcasing artist. Besides presenting a recorded video, we have streamed them, the videos and interview on 2 parallel stages and channels every night, European night, to have a kind of twin stages like we have it usually in the real life. We have also planned for the WOMEX Academy, a new project aiming to build capacity and facilitate international access for young music professionals. We were aiming to conduct workshops in Dakar in Senegal and had a group of Senegalese fellows coming to WOMEX. We had to change the plans and luckily it was possible to conduct the workshops online and at least it was possible to have the group of fellows all together in one place in Dakar, so which created exchange between them. And we hope that we will be able to take these formats further. We decided also not to present the full conference, network meetings and film selection end of October. It would have been too much content. And we decided to use online platform to have this WOMEX extended program over several months. We had the last 2 days, we had our first slots of this. We will have more to come in the next few months. And to finish on a hopefully sunny note, we are keeping a positive mood and we are planning for Porto for end of October 21. The plannings are running and we deeply hope that it will be possible to see many of you there. So thank you, stay safe, stay healthy and keep resilient.
Yeah, we will be there. So.
Thank you.
And our next pivot story is from Sunset, Ontario, Mercedes Caxaj.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I'm coming to you from London, Ontario, Canada, which is also the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, Atawandron, and Lenape Indigenous peoples. So I work with Sunfest, and we present culturally diverse programming for the past 30 years, and we also produce a World Music and Jazz Festival of the same name, Sunfest, for the past 27 years, which is a free 4-day festival with 5 stages, a 250 vendor marketplace, designated consumption areas, free for all families to come. So of course, like last year, like many of us here in this group, we debated to simply cancel for the year and, you know, see what was going to be coming, but decided that because we are the only presenters in Southwestern Ontario that present any sort of culturally diverse music and art, that we needed to continue to serve our audience with original content as they are used to, and to support artists, especially in countries where we knew they had zero supports. So we were one of the first Canadian festivals or Canadian summer festivals to go, so we didn't really know what to expect. So we decided to do 2 days of programming, 2.5 hours per night, featuring 15 bands, local, national, and international. And we provided flexible guidelines to the bands that we engaged with, and they were all enthusiastic to work with us, which was great. At that time, the pandemic lockdowns in a lot of the countries were really, really strict, but somehow the bands managed to pull off really spectacular content and high energy sessions that we were so happy with. So we had bands from South Korea, Mozambique, Cape Verde, Colombia, Chile, Brazil, Sweden, and all over Canada. And so one thing that we wanted to really think about was how we've made it how to make it a truly fully immersive experience. And so what we did was that we also supported our vendors, because that's a huge piece to our festival. So we created a digital marketplace on our website for free for our vendors to use and sell their crafts. We worked with local restaurants to create special menus for Sunfest attendees, and many of them sold out. We also had our beer sponsors release a special Sunfest limited edition cerveza and donated some of the proceeds to us. And we also encouraged donations during the campaign and broadcast. And we used many of those donations to top up the payment that we had for a lot of the artists. And so we worked also with our media partners to do an extensive digital campaign. And typically our campaigns are over 3 months, but we had less than 3 weeks. Yet, because we pushed it so hard, we had close to 2 million impressions and over 60,000 views during the 2 days of this Facebook and YouTube event. And we also collaborated with many streaming partners across 6 different countries, many in the Southwestern Ontario and GTA area. We also broadcasted through radio in order to make it a very accessible project for everybody. And we continue to collaborate, and we continue to program by doing monthly TD Sunfest Connected sessions, where we typically engage 1 national and 1 international band, again, producing original content. So we do 45-minute sets per band, 2 sets per event. Then upcoming next Thursday, February 4th, we are presenting Betsayda from Brazil and some unreleased footage from Rio Mira, a band from Ecuador and Colombia. And you can find links to these presentations on our social channels at Sunfest LDN and sunfest.owen.ca. So I just encourage everybody to continue to collaborate with each other and collaborate with us, of course, as we continue to support artists and support our audiences.
Mercedes, thank you so much for that. Our final pivot story before we hand it back to Isabel, who's going to tell us about the Global Fest Assist Fund, is Juan Souki from Udilia.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having us today. I am going to try to briefly share my screen, see if this works. If it doesn't, go without it. Let's see. It shows as if it is. Is it or not really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to start with this somewhat corporate slide by showing you, I think, more where we were last year than when we are right now. And same thing for this screen. Odilia is a fairly young agency. A year ago, we were feeling really proud about how our work and our roster was improving, basically with a set of artists from Latin America and the Caribbean. I want to go back to them and honor them, first of all. I think it's been the hardest of years for artists and for us agents as well. I think it's been a very dramatic reminder of how low in the entertainment pyramid some of these artists are, although they are the heart and soul of it. And I want to take a moment to honor them and their work and how hard the year has been for some of them. And I want to talk especially about Betsayda Machado, who is our pivot story for this year, or the protagonist for it. Betsayda is an artist based in Venezuela. She's originally from the village of El Clavo, a town of 1,500. She was the first artist that we ever worked with. And a lot of the work we've done has been centered in not only her international touring, but actually her work in the community. At the beginning of the year, we tried to work with the artists on projects that would work on a year as crazy as this. And the case for Betsayda was really difficult, although she's a very active touring act, and they live in a situation where internet is very limited, where it's a really big effort to do a digital show. And the project that we managed to achieve weren't that many. so we started working with her on a different way, or I think the same conversation, but with a different outcome. And Las Cantoras is basically a research project. To share context, this character is Osvaldo Lares. He was born in the 30s. He is you could call him the Venezuelan Alan Lomax. He's turning 90 this year. He holds more than 2,000 recordings, original folk recordings from Venezuela. Very few of those have been digitalized. Betsayda, on the other end, when we started working with her, she had been the part of a group for 30 years, and the group had never recorded a song. We recorded their first album under a mango tree in their village in 2016. She was a Global Fest Artist 2017 and New York Times Best Albums of the Year, the only Latina that made that list on 2018 with those rural recordings. So the Cantoras project basically bring Betsayda and Osvaldo together to work together on researching works from other cantoras who, like Betsayda, started working in very little communities and in a different generation also, and their work never really made it out of those communities. And Lares's archive is so extensive and contains so many. So after some really long listening sessions, we ended up having the work of 10 different cantoras recovered. And this happened only thanks to Bill Bragin. I don't know if Bill is here today, but Betsayda was meant to play at NYU Abu Dhabi this year. And when the show couldn't happen, Bill said, well, what is she working on? And we mentioned a few different projects at a stage where those projects were maybe a couple of lines and a couple of pictures and some not so specific ideas. And he said, I love that project. And we've basically been in residency and digital residency with him for the last month. That residency is ending on Monday, where we're going to show the first preview of the project. It's a 45-minute long conversation between Lares and Betsayda where they show historical footage. And so this is the cover of the album. The album is the result of the residency, and it's an album honoring them. It's a very beautiful project, including recordings from the 1940s to the 1980s. And the project goes beyond that. We're working on building very small 45 collectibles for some of the cantoras and making sure they have a Spotify profile and that is linked to their communities. So trying to work with the idea of repping artists who are away, but were never honored, you know, who have passed but were really fundamental for the countries and the continent culture. So this next Monday, we're going to be chatting about Antonia Hernandez y compañeras, Lourdes Basanta from El Callao, a Calypso artist, and Maria Rodriguez from Cumaná. And yeah, I would like to end today by, I don't know if the video is going to run as well, but sharing the work of one of the cantoras who's still alive and in collaboration with Betsayda. So I am unsure if you keep following me, but maybe we can listen to the first few seconds if you are. Oh, I wish you could hear her voice. Sorry about that. So that's our project. We're very happy to announce that as we finish our residency at NYU Abu Dhabi, the project is going to the Claris Center, and we are celebrating for that.
So, thank you so much. That is truly inspiring. And actually, everybody's stories is so interesting that in pivoting, everybody just amplified their mission and spread it across the world in a way that I don't think we get to in a usual non-crisis pandemic way.